Get in right on time. Right on time. Okay. So, gonna try to pick up where we left off. The evil billionaires. All right. So we were trying to form a system, trying to say that we would need to prevent the accumulation of wealth, we would need to assign a certain dollar amount based on the value that those different people provided. Um, so on and so on. Why is it, this is just a thought that occurs to me, why is it that people believe that all people could do all things, or all people could do any one thing? There are certain people that no matter what they do, and I'm not talking about physically handicapped people, I'm talking about regular people, not in their lifetime, not in multiples of lifetimes, even if they had an extended lifetime of 300 years, they couldn't do certain things. Like winning a gold medal in the Olympics. For the 100-yard dash or the 400 meter. Like, everyone cannot do any one thing. It's just not, it's not practical. Well, you gotta start at a young age, and no, not even that. That's what I'm saying. People are different, and all people are not perfectly situated genetically for all things. It's, I don't understand why that has to be perceived as so. Here's the risk. The risk, socialistic and all those kinds of things. And by the way, socialism doesn't exist in utopias exclusively, or rather, utopia. Utopian societies do not require socialism. I just want to get that out there. But anyway, in this utopia, hypothetically, it would be ideal to, if everybody knew, or there was an entity that knew what everybody was best at, and they could place them in those positions. That would be obviously very socialistic and controlled environment, so on and so on. But hypothetically, everybody would thrive to the best of their abilities because they were selected, handcrafted perfectly for them. I'm not advocating for that. I'm not advocating for that at all. The flip side is, if you believe that anybody can do anything, then what you're doing there is you're setting up people for, well, obvious disappointment. That's clear. But it does not breed what's the word? It doesn't foster an environment of creativity or invention, or ingenuity, I believe, is the word I'm trying to hunt for. But it just, that's not what it doesn't help that at all. Okay. If everybody gets told that they can do anything, and then they try these 5 different things and they fail at all of them because they're trying to do something that they're really just not capable of or ready for. There's that too. There are elements of timing. There's just so many different factors at play. So many factors at play, guys. Even if you're the best in the world at this thing, it doesn't mean that the world will accept or understand it, and you could still fail even though you were the best at something. I hope you get what I'm saying there. It's important. And if that's not well understood, that despite your best efforts, you might not get to get, and you might actually, just based on the city you were born in or whatever, you might have to settle for the second best thing that you're good at. And that thing that you were best at, the world might not be ready for, or the world already, already moved past that. For like, making the wheel. Think of any task that's automated to, accurate to the 16th decimal point in the manufacturing process. They've mastered Six Sigma, but you, hypothetically, was it 300 years earlier, you would have been able to do that thing better than any person on the planet now or forever. But now computers do it. It doesn't matter that you were universally the best ever, because you could be obsolete. Or like I said, the world might not be ready. Like, let's say you understand quantum mechanics and the math involved and the concepts, and you understand that like another person understands basic addition, and your mind operates in such a way that you can see quantum math, quantum stuff, just big old lumpy category. You understand it like a really good mathematician understands basic math. It's like your language. You just get it. Well, the world might not be ready for that. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, you might be able to accomplish something, but you also might not make millions of dollars. You might not see great success in your life just because you're the best at something. So what is happening is this. This is what's really and truly happening. I'm going to break this down probably a little better than I did yesterday. Okay? Put it up like that. I'm going to block my face, just the light, right? So here's what's actually happening. Let's make this as clear as possible, okay? There are people that are making money. They're making more money than you. There are people that are not making money. They're working really hard. You see it, and you feel like they just don't have a chance or an opportunity. You feel that way. But here's what happens when you start to make judgment calls based on what you think you know, is you don't understand perfect context. Okay? You do not understand perfect context. You don't know everybody's life story. You don't know all the things that went into the decisions that they made. You can do gross generalizations, but that doesn't help anyone. So there are certain assumptions that are being made by certain people. AOC possibly being one of them. I don't know. But there's other folks out there. There's assumptions that everyone on the planet, but especially everyone in our country, should have fill in the blank. By nature of having breath and being on this land, they should have fill in the blank. So, that belief comes from some assumption about human beings, some assumption about the value of people. There's probably good and bad aspects of those beliefs. So it is logical to say that a baby, let's just say a 3-month-old baby, has we know what a baby needs. So does that, because of the need, does that baby have the right? Now, obligations and rights, are they the same? Are they the same? Do they need to be the same? Is that how things have to be? So let's just say, hypothetically, and forgive me because I'm not perfect. I don't have perfect knowledge, perfect awareness of laws and the structure of laws and what necessitates what. And if you do, fine. Let's do this. Come at me, bro. But here's what I'm saying. Let's just say, hypothetically, there's a system that we could say, no, there's not human rights. Nobody has the right to food. Nobody has the right to provision. Hypothetically, even a baby, even a 3-month-old baby. However, we, who is we, that's important, who is we, we'll have to find out who we is in this discussion. We are obligated, and I do mean obligated, morally obligated, and I just can't use the word justice. It's not justice. It is not. Is it just that a baby is fed? I think it's a different category. I could be wrong. It's important to admit that you could be wrong. That doesn't mean say whatever the heck you want without any form of thought or logic, and then say I could be wrong, but believe me anyway. It's ridiculous. Wonder who does that. Anyway, imagine a system where we say, I am obligated, we are obligated. I know I said the I know I said I know, we got to find out who this we is. We are obligated to meet the needs of those who cannot meet their own needs, period. We are obligated. Does that mean, because it's an obligation, does that mean that it's a right? I would argue no. I would say no, there's not a right. I'm scanning the crevices of my mind for a reason why what I'm saying might be incredibly foolish. And it could be. I am not confident that what I am saying is perfect, okay? But I'm just sharing my thoughts. I don't believe that obligation necessitates rights. That there needs to be a legal mandate, rather a moral mandate that's not controlled by the law. Okay? This could be foolish. This could be very foolish. I know that there's the nature of pragmatics. I understand that by the nature of inaction, bystander effect, and many other phenomena in human society, there's many a reason why it's just not helpful to not have it as a legal mandate. I get that. But that causes problems. And I would say that whether or not it's a 3-month-old baby or an 80-year-old person, we have a moral obligation. This is my claim. We have a moral obligation to provide for those who cannot provide for themselves. Okay. If that's true, what do we do about it? If that's true, how do we regulate it? Who is the we? Who is the we? Well, there's been a lot of thought about the social welfare program. Okay, consider the options, I guess, right? So they're carrying this trailer. I'm just gonna concentrate as I pass this oversized load. It's like, why ride the middle lane? Don't you understand that restricts traffic on both sides? Unforgivable. You'd have to be over 30 to remember that. More than likely. It's amazing. Just amazing. Alright, so if we had an opt-in system where if you were opted in, you contribute to the system, but you also benefit from the system. You have money come out of your paycheck, so on, but you're guaranteed access to things like food stamps. You're guaranteed access to things like Medicaid, Medicare, all that stuff. Okay. Or you opt out and you don't contribute, and you also don't get any of the benefits. So then, obviously, everybody asks, okay, you get in an accident, you're rendered incapable from ever producing anything for yourself, you no longer can provide for your own needs, and you were opted out. What do you do? What's going to happen? So, in those situations, there's no provision. What is the current provision for, let's just say, I don't know, somebody that's in our country that's not a citizen, that technically has no right to the provision, and they never contributed to the provision? What are we currently doing about those people? are we just tossing them in the river, or are they being handled in some way that is beneficial to their life? Are they being provided their needs, despite the fact they never provided anything into the system? Okay. Well, in that case, great. But if we were to implement this system where it was an opt-in, obviously there would be, well, not obviously, but I think it's obvious that there would be a drastic reduction in revenue for those social programs. Therefore, the benefits would instantly be forced to reduce because the contributions would be reduced. However, those people that be so clever as to not contribute would also be the ones that would probably end up using it. If 1 in 7 or 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 or whatever the stat is are using a social welfare program in some fashion or another, then it just would change things. It would change things drastically. So who is we? Bottom line is, I think that there is an acknowledgement by having social welfare. I think there is an acknowledgement that people are not basically good, because if people were basically good, then people would basically take care of each other whenever the need arises. People don't refuse to take care of others because they're not able. That happens some of the time. People refuse to take care of others because they don't feel like it, or they don't feel like the person deserves the help. They typically will have thoughts like they could do something, they're just not working hard enough, or they brought this on themselves, or I don't have time for that, or I can't have them dragging me down, so on and so on. And then those same people are angry at billionaires for not helping the helpless, hypothetically. Almost every family in America could feed another family any day of the week. Almost every family in America, and this is not coming from a place of prosperity. I am talking about in the pits of food stampville and complete financial demise. The kind of country that we live in, almost every family in America could feed another family any day of the week, especially if you plan for it. You take a little run down the food pantry and you've got instant extra provisions. And you could feed that family. Well, that's not fixing the problem. No, it's a step though. It's a step. It's a step that if it was more regular, if it was more part of the system on an individual basis. Individual responsibility is hate speech. Individual responsibility, just systemic racism. What? I don't know what you're talking about. Truly don't have a clue. Why it's so hateful to say that you could do something. Like Smokey the Bear, only you. Now Smokey the Bear is giving the bird, chirp, chirp. Now Smokey the Bear is giving the bird to climate change. Right? Now Smokey the Bear doesn't even talk about you, that only you can prevent forest fires. Now Smokey the Bear is like, only you can vote for climate change reform. Yeah, Smokey, that's it. I'm so glad you woke up, Smokey the Bear. Should billionaires give away all their money, guys? Should they give it all away? What does that solve? People are in poverty for a reason. Sometimes those reasons are personal, as in self-inflicted. Sometimes those reasons are circumstantial, slightly outside of the control of the person. And sometimes they're completely environmental. And there's nothing anybody could have done about that. So you're living on an island and it gets wiped out by a hurricane or a typhoon or whatever, a tsunami, and you have everything you owned is gone. You're instantly poor. Records of your wealth are somehow destroyed too. Let's say you had, 50 grand in the bank. You were doing well. Ish. I mean, that just picked an arbitrary number. That's really nice, actually. But don't get me wrong. I sure would like that. Get out of double-digit land. But anyway, anyway, here's what I'm saying. It won't solve the world's problems. Look at people that get money that they didn't earn. Serious. Look at the lifestyle of people. Look at the choices of people that get money that they did not earn. Look at how they use it. Well, that just doesn't. No. Look at the statistics. The vast majority of how money that you didn't earn is spent, from lottery winnings to trust fund kids to anything. Yes, there are exceptions. Obviously, there are exceptions. Okay? But I'm not talking about the exceptions. I'm talking about the vast majority. Okay, and that's important. It is important. So, you pay attention. There's some accidents in that. I'm always paying attention. That's why I hardly ever look at you. I look at you sometimes. I look at my camera less than I look at it when it's like a GPS. I'm like practically studying the matrix when there's a GPS. I'm like, oh, look at that road. Oh, look at that road. Oh, look at that road. I'm about to come up on, oh, look at that. So, there's just a side comment. I did a little research. Hands-free is what's required, which is obviously the case. And I keep my eyes on the road, guys, because I care about my life. Care about my wife. Care about my strife. Care about my children. I wish that rhymed with strife or wife or life. Too bad, too bad. Or as gamers would say, rip. Rip. Alright. Billionaires, guys, billionaires. I'm telling you, billionaires giving their money away. The only argument, here's the only argument that I say. This is my idea. This is what makes billionaires not evil, but a problem. Here's what makes billionaires a problem. Here's the problem. I want them to have money. I want them to have access to whatever they want. If they've accomplished greatness, if they've provided value to this world, I want them to be rewarded, okay? I refuse those rewards are psychopaths, okay? Here's what I argue. And there has to be a strategic solution for this, and here's the problem. There is a massive amount of, let's take just Bill Gates, for instance, and Bezos, okay? Between the both of those guys, you've got about $100 billion, guys, that the money's not moving anywhere. Like, the money's not doing anything. It's just a number. And I know some of you are like, well, actually, in the banking system, well, that $50 billion actually is $350 billion because of the factor of 7 that banks are allowed to. So actually, it's doing something. I get what you're saying there. Like, I do. But what I'm trying to say is I took that in. It better not rain. I mean, it's a blue sky day, sun shining. So here's what I'm trying to say. That money, they say the more money that's created, the lower the value of the dollar. So if they just go and print $100 trillion right now, $100 trillion, just boom, we're gonna go print $100 trillion. That would take a little while. Take a crap ton of time, I imagine. But let's just say they did that. That would be bad. It would then be like, I'm not, I don't know the math, but I'd say a loaf of bread would no longer cost $3. It would cost $3 million, probably. Probably. Again, I don't know the perfect ratio and all the math there, but if all of a sudden bread costs $300 million, that'd be a big problem. Well, here's what I'm saying. For all of the billionaires out there, especially with money not doing anything at all they want really and truly in life is security. What if we just gave, like, a special access card to certain people? Once you cross $1 billion, you did it. You made it. You did it. We already know you can't outspend $1 billion. So just give them a freaking card. Put that money, destroy the money. Destroy the money. And by destroy it by just feeding it back into the debt, right? The national deficit. And if you feed that money back in the national deficits, I mean, it won't cure overnight, but everything over $1 billion, just feed it back into the national debt. However, the consolation, because you're like, oh no, you can't take away from the billionaires. Well, make both people happy, guys. Give those guys an all-access card. They're already a billionaire, okay? for their lifetime, I know you can transfer down money, but you can't transfer down the card. That doesn't seem fair. It does if you change your mindset on the value of providing value. Because if you're just the baby of somebody that was a billionaire and you do nothing of value in your entire... I know, I mean, but the $1 billion gives them the opportunity to make value that they otherwise probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to. There's argument there somewhat. I get what you're saying, but what I'm just philosophizing on another method. Give them a card. Okay. Well, where does the money come from to fund that card when they want to take a boat trip or... Well, guys, it goes back to my whole, you could fit in another family. You could feed a family any night of the week. You could do it. Could you do it 365 days a year? Well, no, maybe not. That'd be a pretty significant burden. But what's the burden of, well, the billionaire, he wants to have a cruise ship all to himself, the entire thing. Does that card allow him to do that? The billionaire, he wants to buy an island. Does that card allow him to do that? I get it. There's flaws. There are flaws in that system. I'm not arguing. Just trying to think of another way. Feeding that money back into the system or deleting the money so that the value of the dollar goes up, that's a nice idea. But at what cost? At what cost? Somehow, some way, folks that have provided great value to this planet, they deserve stuff. They deserve rewards. How much do they deserve? Well, that's what the dollar's good for. It helps give you a structure for how much you deserve. Because if you have 1 billion versus you have 60 billion, well, if you just have 1 billion, which obviously is a crap load of money, you can't necessarily buy a country. But if you have $60 billion, you could buy some countries. You could literally be like, hey, I want to be you guys' boss. Just call me Big Daddy. I'm just saying, the dollar, it's the best we got. Find a way to make that magic card work, where the money would come from, how you could make everybody happy, and you would be a billionaire, because that'd be providing great value to fixing a massive problem. Imagine a family that only has $12 in their bank account. That means that they could buy a gallon of milk, a loaf of bread, and maybe a thing of peanut butter with $12. But that same $12, if we were to feed back all of the excess money back into the system, not giving it to people, but destroying it to inflate the value of the dollar, well, gosh, $12 could go back to being an entire meal. $12 could be the amount that it costs to fill your tank up of gasoline instead of $50. So on and so on, guys. So consider these things, and one day, before I'm long gone, maybe I'll see a response or a comment on this video.